So, may I start?
Of course, ma'am, of course. Roja has given you.
Good morning and a warm welcome to this special keynote address one by Dr. T.S. Satyanath. At the outset, I would like to thank Professor Jolly Putisari for making me part of this wonderful 3-day conference, which is going to be very lively, bringing in a lot of practices that are uh, living traditions of this nation. Cuisine continues to be a significant discourse in the various fields of study, such as culinary arts, medicine, philosophy, yoga, and aesthetics, so on and so forth. There exists a prism which can be viewed from an angle of 360 degrees. The very survival of the living beings is impossible without the consumption of food. It's not merely a product of consumption, but it's a continuum of heritage, culture, and science. The relishing of food is valued so much so that it found a significant place in the aesthetic deliberations. I would like to quote from Natya Shastra of Bharat Muni, who propounded the first rasa theory, wherein he brings in an equation of the aesthetic pleasure with the relishment of food. Yet द्रव्यैर्युतैः बहुव्यञ्जनैः बहुभिर्युतैः आस्वादयन्ति भुजना भक्तं भक्तविदो जनाः भावाभिनयसंयुक्तो स्थायी भावांसस्तदा बुधाः आस्वादयन्ति मनसा तस्माद् नाट्य rasaha smritaha. Just as a connoisseur of cooked food, that is the bhakta, by eating food which has been prepared from various spices and of the articles tasted, so the learned people taste in their hearts, manas, the durable psychological states, when they are represented by an expression of psychological states with gestures. Food is not just equated with the culmination of various bhavas or emotions in performance, but also the relation of the food and consumer is equated with the communion of performer and the audience by Bharata. The culinary art is a synergy of the geographical and cultural environments of its place of origin. Food is not merely a biological necessity, it also reflects aspects of an individual's personality. A person's taste preferences can influence their mood and temperament, while the flavors they enjoy often reveal the cultural roots of their backgrounds. Cuisine itself develops through the combined influence of geography and culture within a region. Many ethnic traditions of the culinary art are orally and literally documented and preserved. There is a folk riddle in Telugu. Tinkara tinkara wo, vani tammudu nalla gudla mi, nalu kalla me. When I was inquiring about this with Dr. Arudra, a researcher, he said that this has a solution or it carries a recipe for non-veg cooking. So this is what the art of culinary has to offer to us, and various regional practices preserve in them age-long traditions. This is what will be discussed in detail by Dr. T.S. Satyanath. His paper is Cuisine as an Indigenous Knowledge System. I take privilege in introducing the keynote speaker of this session, Dr. T.S. Satyanath. He is a former professor in the Department of Modern Indian Languages and Literary Studies at the University of Delhi, where he taught comparative Indian literature in Kannada. Comparative literature, translation studies, folklore studies, and cultural studies are his areas of interest. He has published extensively in these areas. He is closely associated with Delhi Comparatists, a group of faculty and students pursuing comparative literary studies at the University of Delhi campus. He is a recipient of Karnataka State Janapada and Yakshagana Academy Award, Shamba Joshi Award, and Rashtrakavi G.S. Shiva Rudrappa Award. He is one of the editors of Delhi Journal of Comparative Literature. It's my honor to welcome you, sir. Dr. T.S. Satyanath will be delivering the first special keynote address. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I first of all thank CFSR and CFCS for bringing me here. It's a matter of pleasure to be associated with them. The way that the conference is changing year by year is amazing and gives an assurance that folklore is going to flourish in the days to come. How much time do I have?
Sir, erstwhile your schedule was till 12, but you can take some time more to, as your session is started very late. We are sorry for that, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is it visible?
12 past 15, maybe.
Say it again.
It's visible. Of course.
Yes, sir, visible.
It's visible, sir.
Okay. What I do is I will try to go as quick as possible. It's a paper, so I'm going to read you and no explanations to save time. This is a brief overview. Is it visible?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. I have a brief introduction, and then I will talk briefly about terminological clarifications. Then I'll talk about towards the historiography of cuisine texts that we need. This is part of a bigger work that I'm doing. Fourthly, I will discuss in detail a text called Shupashastra, a Kannada text, and then in the end, discussion. Hay observes that the Ayurvedic way of thinking, I'm using Ayurveda very carefully. It has been all pervasive. So, it's only referential. Otherwise, I will not use the word as far as possible. Hay observes that the Ayurvedic way of thinking considers the universe as a macrocosm and human being's body as a microcosm with a direct relationship between the two. Thus, there is a connection between the five sensory organs and their functions. Shabda, ear hearing, sparsha, touch feeling, rupa, eye seeing, rasa, tongue tasting, gandha, nose smelling, help body to realize the environment. Indian subcontinent is also highly diverse in terms of its social epistemology, differentiated in terms of ethnic, religious, and cultural parameters, and cuisine is no exception to it. Thus, what we call the Indian cuisine varies based on ecology, religious practices, movements of people, and local cuisine practices on the one hand, and is a continually evolving system on the other. Though broadly called as Indian cuisine and an indigenous knowledge system, a long-standing history of trade contacts with the Greeks, Romans, Persians, Jews, Arabs, Chinese, Central Asian, South Asian, and European communities have brought in a variety of ingredients and cooking practices into the Indian cuisine system. Thus, cuisine varies according to region, climate, soil, and social stratification. Hence, the terms such as Indian and indigenous knowledge systems are only heuristic in nature. It is with such a pluralistic and polyphonic context that we need to understand cuisine as an Indian knowledge system. In addition, cuisine is more a practice than a theory, and it's a body-centered knowledge system. Only meticulous practice perfects a culinary delicacy and not the textual or oral knowledge. Above all, cuisine is a multidisciplinary practice involving medicine, ecology, health, philosophy, and a variety of disciplines. Second, terminological clarification. As a student of literature and folklore, I wish to start the discussion through terms that are familiar to me. The theme of the conference contains vernacularity, folk practices, mapping, living tradition, and Indian knowledge system. If one wishes to take a post-colonial approach, these terms need to be problematized first. Vernacularity. Vernacular refers to everyday, informal language, dialect, or cultural expressions of a specific group rather than formal and standard language. However, this meaning is derived from a monolingual context and becomes different within a multilingual context like India. There are discussions on Sanskrit cosmopolitan writing cultures, Polak, Prakrit cosmopolitan writing culture, Shettar, and Persian cosmopolitan writing cultures, Eton. The process of vernacularization is the process of transferring knowledge from a dominant classical language into a commonly spoken language. The terms such as transferring, classical, and knowledge are problematic and are from the age of enlightenment. While transferring subsumes an unidirectional flow from classical to vernacular also creates a high-low status distinction, making knowledge of the classical superior to the lore of the folks. We notice that the vernacular cosmopolitan writing cultures in India, in Indian languages, not only contain cosmopolitanisms of Sanskrit and Prakrit, but also coexisted with them, absorbing from each other. In several places, the flow is in the reverse direction, pratiloma, from vernaculars to the classical. In order to make this point clear, let us take a look at compendiums of knowledge in Sanskrit called the encyclopedias. In Sanskrit, and by implication in the vernacular languages of India, the titles for encyclopedic texts carry terms like Sagara, ocean, Kathasarit Sagara, Kosha, a vessel for holding liquids, Nanakosha, Ambudhi, ocean, Chandhombudhi, metrical text, Ratnakara, the holder of jewels, Shivatattva Ratnakara, a cuisine, name of a cuisine text that I am going to discuss, or wish-giving objects like Kalpavriksha, wish-giving tree, which came at the time of churning of the ocean, which is Shabda Kalpadruma, and Kaumudi, moonlight, Ganita Kaumudi, and Kaumudi is also associated with the ocean. I'll come to that. A closer look reveals that either the ocean itself or the 14 auspicious objects that came out during the churning of the ocean, Samudra Manthana, or the ones that grow in water, appears to be associated with the titles of language-based texts called Shastra. Thus, ocean and its churning becomes a significant image in knowledge production in classical Indian textual tradition. Thus, water appears to be metaphorically associated with the source of language in Sanskrit. Traditionally, kings had control only over the agrarian lands, Prithvipati they are called, and by implication, the pastoral and the hunting lands and the oceans were outside their jurisdiction. In fact, the ocean and mountains marked the boundaries of king's jurisdiction. But how did the water come into the ocean? It actually came from the rivers that flow from different regions. If ocean and its products represent the image of a knowledge archive in Sanskrit, you know very famous shloka from the Maha Subhashita Sangraha, Akashat Paritantoim Yatagachyati Sagaram. Just like water falling from the sky flows into the ocean through rivers. The second line I am not going to repeat because it goes to Keshava. So that is not the intention here. By implication, the knowledge flow into it through the rivers that are located in different regions, the vernaculars. It needs to be kept in mind that folklore is actually the vernacular counterpart of the Indian vernaculars. Mapping is a cartographic process, a prescribed way of assigning a fixed city. It's a colonial knowledge system used with the intention of subjugating the space and people, a locationally pinning up exercise. Note that the medieval kingship had only agrarian tracts within its jurisdiction. This calls for a discussion on counter or alternative mappings. Moreover, mapping is also an exercise of creating overarching homogeneity. Knowledge. In Indian languages, traditional knowledge systems are usually called shastras, but this is not very fixed, apart from the fact that the distinction between the kavya and the shastra is only heuristic. They also overlap. Elsewhere, I have argued, this is Kavya's knowledge system, Jadavpur University publication, that Kavya is a repository knowledge system, and the Ashtadasha Varnanam, the 18 descriptions, such as sunrise, moonrise, constitute not only the knowledge about them, but also of the river valley-based agrarian system, that is the kingship. In addition to Indian knowledge systems being found in scriptocentric format as Shastra texts, they could also be found in phonocentric, orality, living folklore that we are talking of, and body-centric formats, particularly the knowledge of artisan and servicing communities, which never gets coded. Though several of these knowledge systems, such as the wood making, became a scriptocentric document in the course of time in Brihat Samhita or Haramihra, they continue to remain exclusively body-centric. I think I will skip this portion. This is where I wanted to argue that the Puravarnanam, which is actually description of the city in the Mahakavyas, the architectural practices as it is exemplified in texts like Arthashastra, and the maps that reveal the excavations of prehistoric cities like Pataliputra and others, they actually agree. That shows there is a dialogue or there is perfect agreement between the scriptocentric representation of text, the canonical representation of city, and the actual layout of the city as we find in archaeological excavation. That I will briefly do it. This is exactly the schematic diagram of Puravarnanam in Sukti Sudharanam, a text that I am going to discuss in detail. It has concentric circles with place, palace and temple at the epicenter, marketplace as the core zone, defense system as the boundary, paddy fields, cattle pens and reservoir as periphery, and the forest in the fringe zone. This continues in Arthashastra. For example, I have superimposed these details on the Puravarnanam imposed on the architectural layout given in Arthashastra. This is from Rangarajan's book. There is a perfect agreement. Almost 11 items agree with each other. These issues should prompt us to interrogate and problematize the terms that are being currently used in folklore scholarship. In order to substantiate the issues that I have raised here, let us take a closer look at cuisine as a knowledge system. A historiography of cuisine is an urgent necessity to map the historical, ecological, social, medical, and circulation aspects of dietary practices, making use of a comparative framework on the one hand, and the publics that produced and consumed them on the other. As no history of cuisine text in India is available, I have tried to put together the texts that deal with cuisine as a beginning exercise. I am not going to discuss in detail, it's just a mention. A survey of cuisine texts yields a total of 12 texts with 6 in Sanskrit, 3 in Prakrit, and 2 in Kannada. 4 of them are encyclopedias and deal with cuisine in exclusive chapters. Thus, we have about 8 texts that deal exclusively with cuisine. Temporally speaking, they span over a period of 7 centuries, from the 11th to 17th century, roughly corresponding to the period of vernacular cosmopolitan literatures of India. However, there is a conspicuous absence of cuisine texts in vernacular literatures of India. I talked of, but they are not there. Out of a total of 12 texts, 7 are in Sanskrit, 3 are in Persian, and 2 are in Kannada. There is also a restricted speciality regarding the spatial distribution of texts. While a majority of Sanskrit and Kannada texts were produced in the courts of South India, the Persian texts came from the Mughal court and Malwa. Only two Sanskrit texts, one from Varanasi and another from Ujjain, have been reported from North India. And this is just a statement. You have the table here, table of Cuisine text. Asterisk mark represents their encyclopedia. I have color coded the languages. There is time, and there is. I will just read them. I'm not. And what we need to notice is the last one, region. Where do they come from? Lokopakara, it's a Kannada text, the earliest that we can lay our hands on. Manasolasa of Someshwara, again encyclopedia. Pakadarpana, Nimatnama, Supashastra. This is the one that I'm going to discuss in detail. Kshema Kutuhalam, Aine Akbari, Bhojana Kutuhala, Shivatatva Ratnakara, again another encyclopedic text. Pakashastra, Alwan A. Nemat, and Pakachandrika. Let me not, I can talk more about these things, but I would rather like to go and talk more about the Supashastra rather than this, so that I can problematize that. But my point here is that there is an urgent need to put knowledge about Pakashastra, whether it is text or this text sort of stuff I did for a conference. And also the other types of these are the problem is many of these are only either Brahminical texts or come from a religious point of view, so that the dietary practices discussed there are restricted. Except Munasolasa, I don't see non-vegetarian food being discussed elsewhere. So we'll go into that. In this section, I take a closer look at Supashastra, a Cuisine text in Kannada by Mangarasa, 1431 CE, a Jaina writer and poet. This is the earliest independent text on cuisine available to us. Supashastra contains claims that it provides details for making various food items based on certain principles. It also says it makes food to teach the kulinastri, the elite or well educated women. In the process of doing so, it generates a series of typological categories that are integral to cuisine and medicine as a knowledge system. This is the poem, the three, this is 1.6, this is a 4-line meter, and it gives us the 6 rasas, 9 abiotic or edible plant forms, and the 3 schools of cuisine, cooking. The one in the black letter is Kannada word, you don't understand that. Savivarada means sweet. That's all. Madhura, Amla, Katuka, Tikta, Kashaya, Lavana, Rasamam, Rasas, the Shid rasas. Then Taru, Gulmat, Prina, Late, Navakanda, Nala, Dala, Kusuma, Phala. These are the edible system. And the last line is Nala Bhima Gauri Mata. Which says in Nala Bhima and Gauri Mata. I will narrate it here. The 6 essences, the Shadrasas. To start with, 6 types of essences, Shadrasas, are also called as Rasavipaka Bheda, has been discussed. This provides the typology of essences. Madhura, sweet, Amla, sour, Katuka, bitter, Tikta, pungent, Kashaya, astringent, Lavana, salt. These are the 6 rasas. The foundation of Indian medicine and cuisine is governed by 3 biological energies called the 3 doshas or dhatus, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Each corresponds to a specific element. Each corresponds to specific elements, the Panchabhutas, and impacts both the physical and the mental functions. Derived from the 5 elements, these doshas maintain homeostasis with their balance ensuring health, and their imbalance, dosha vaishamya, causing disease. while water governs movement, pitta metabolism, kapha the structure and lubrication. The five elements. The Panchabhutas are a group of five basic elements, and in Hindu thought becomes the basis for all cosmic creation, including the body. Buddhism differentiates only four basic elements and excludes space from. However, these elements in Buddhist thought are more fluid and transformational in nature. Jainism too considers five elements but deviates from Hindu thought in several aspects. The Jain view of the Panchabhutas is not just a physical element but of inhabited living substances demanding a highly conscious and ethical relationship with nature through ahimsa. There are several other systems, for example, the Siddha medicine, the folk medicine, they too don't talk of these things, but in principle and they maintain this structure into the approach. I many a times feel that many of the knowledge systems that are codified in literary texts have actually come from the folk systems. So this provides I've now tried to visualize that and create, this is the essences, the Shadrasas according to the Supashastra. And similarly, the ingredients that go into Cuisine, an abiotic plant system is provided. The 6 essences are present in 9 types of vegetation. This is what so the Shadrasas are actually in this vegetation system, and that is Taru plant. These words are Kannada, but they are also Sanskritic of origin. Gulma shrub, Trina grass, Latte creeper, Navakanda tuber, Nala reed, Dala petal, Kusuma flower, and Phala fruit. This is Supashastra 1.6 again. This could be diagrammatically conceived as this, as shown here. The process of making culinary delicacies provides another typology of eatables. The typology of vegetation provides the basis for making different types of edibles, bhaksha, though through heating and condensation. The processes are halu, milk, the word halu, Telugu, palu, Tamil and Malayalam pal, and the variety of Dravidian languages, it is the same. Milk, ajja ghee, ambila porridge, havimuka steaming, and guda jaggery. There is an interesting thing. I said the process of heating and the condensation will give these five forms. This is the process that I have illustrated. And let us see. It's interesting to note that the processes mentioned covers different degrees of heating starting from liquid, which is milk, to solid jaggery on the one hand, and various types of consistencies on other. Jaggery is almost solid, milk is fluid, porridge which comes in between is the in-between, and havimuka, which is steaming, brings it to another shape. So there is a degree of, there are two axes that are interacting here, the liquidity versus condensation. Finally, the 3 schools, Nala, Bhimasena, and Gauri are mentioned. The texts in Sanskrit, if they are not assigned to people like, the one that we are dealing, they either take either the Nala or the Bhimasena. This is a bit problematic. We will come to it at the end. How this interacts is a very interesting aspect. The interaction among the essences, that is the Shadrasas, and the elements, the Panchabhutas, and the humus could be seen here. This is the Madhura, sweet, represents Prithvi and Ap, that is earth and water, and it increases Pitta, it is moderate to Kapha, and decreases Vata. Similarly, Amla, sour, is exists in Prithvi and Agni, that means earth and fire. It increases Pitta, is moderate to Kapha, and decreases Vata. So simultaneously, it becomes a medicine and it also becomes a you know, poison, or dosha. I mean, I should call it as dosha. Katuka, that means bitter, um, is in Vayu and Akasha, that means air and space, decreases Pitta, decreases Kapha, but increases Vata. Tikta or pungent exists in Agni and Vayu, it means fire and space, increases Pitta, decreases Kapha, moderate and is moderate to Vata. Kashaya or astringent exists in Vayu and Prithvi, which is air and earth, decreases Pitta, decreases Kapha, and increases Vata. Lavana, salt, exists in Agni and Vayu, which is fire and air, increases Pitta, decreases Kapha, and is moderate to Vata. And the food is prepared in the, we have heard a term called the Shadra Rasopeta Bhojana, the food with all the six, there has to be a balance. But the balance will vary from the dosha that is there in the individual with regard to Pitta, Kapha, and Vata. So the medicine and the diet are one and the same in this system. Let's take another such combination of essences and their effort. So when you mix these things, what will happen? When salt, sour, sweet, they are mixed together, Lavana, Amla, and Madhura, the effect is Shushka, dryness. It doesn't have much effect on Pitta, but increases Kapha and decreases Vata. Similarly, when bitter, astringent, and sweet are mixed together, it means Katuka, Kashaya, and Madhura, it becomes Shaka, which means it generates heat. So it reduces, it decreases Pitta and is not effective as far as Kapha and Vata are concerned. Similarly, bitter, astringent, and pungent, Katuka, Kashaya, and Tikta is Ghana, is solid. It decreases Kapha and increases Vata. Lavana, Amla, and Tikta, salt, sour, and pungent, we don't know its effect. It's not clearly given in the text. It increases Pitta. And the last one, sweet, salt, and sour, Madhura, Lavana, Amla, increases Kapha. When we consume regional delicacies, all these parameters works behind the preparation. So by doing this, what I'm trying to suggest is Cuisine as a pluralistic epistemology. So what it does, see, if I use the verse that I have quoted in the beginning, what it brings to us is these the shloka or the Cuisine need to be understood within the broad framework of whatever that has been the Shadrasas, the abiotic edible plant system, the cooking processes and its density or condensation, and the different schools. Different schools probably adopt different things. I'm actually in the process of writing the historiography of these texts. I'm actually trying to compare them and understand what do they do, and also their local aspect. All these things lead to Cuisine as an interdisciplinary system. If I put the same verse into a diagram of this sort, in the center you have Cuisine, and then you have the body system, ecosystem, culinary process and essences, and the Shadrasas, the processes, the humors. They all, and what is the material that goes into it? They all ecosystem. They all come into a very complex framework. To briefly, let me just briefly outline what are the other things in this text. To briefly outline One of the reasons why I opted for this text is this is the earliest available independent cuisine text, and it also comes from a vernacular. I've checked with fairly good amount of authenticity. Not many texts have been reported from other Indian languages. If there is something, please let me know. Yeah, I'll be happy to, get the ideas. To briefly outline Supashastra, there are 7 chapters in the text, and each one of them deals with a particular type of preparation. The first chapter is called PTK, which is Introduction, which deals with the details about the poet, patron, and the preliminary remarks outlined above. The second chapter deals with preparations from flour, which is Pishtapakadhyaya, in which various kinds of wheat flour and preparations have been discussed. I will not go into the details. The third chapter deals with preparation of various kinds of drinks, which is called the Panakadhyaya. The fourth chapter deals with various kinds of rice preparation, Kalamannadi Pakadhyaya. The last 3 chapters deal with preparations using vegetables, Shakapakadhyaya. The text ends abruptly and appears to be an incomplete one. Let us go to the discussion. Another 5 minutes, I will try to finish this. I will take up 2 issues for discussion here. One about the lack of discussion on non-vegetarian cuisine in these texts, and the other about cuisine as a women knowledge system. A majority of the texts on cuisine discuss only vegetarian cuisine and conspicuously avoid non-vegetarian cuisine. Religions like Buddhism, Jainism, and Hinduism advocate non-violence, and when the authors are from such backgrounds, there is an absence of discussion on non-vegetarian food. Moreover, meat is considered as tamasic in Ayurveda and Yoga, and also in several other folk practices too, as it promotes inertia, ignorance, and impurity, and are avoided in cuisine texts, which are usually authored by Brahmins, Buddhists, and Jains. Curiously, in certain tantric schools, particularly Vamachara and Kauda sects, meat is considered as one of the 5 sacred elements, the Panchamakaras that we are taught of, used to transcend duality, break illusions, and turn forbidden acts into spiritual sadhana. Similarly, Manosolasa by Someshwara, this is a text of 1135, he is the Chalukyan king, has a chapter in which non-vegetarian cuisine has been discussed. The very fact that author is a king and the text is being a compendium for kings, Rajasic food, might have prompted such an inclusion. I'll bring, there is some point at which we have to go beyond the canonical text. So I'll bring a modern day incident and bring in non-vegetarianism into it, and thereby trying to extend the classical Indian cuisine system, which is mostly vegetarian, into an area. This is a question that was raised by someone in 2007, Bashir, a column writer in Canada. Wrote a column writing called the Badutada Jatage Gandhi Jayanti, non-vegetarian meal on Gandhi Jayanti. It attempts to problematize the dietary practices. Bashir's column appears as a reaction to the TV debates that appeared around 2007, consequent to the son of a Karnataka minister consuming a non-vegetarian meal on Gandhi Jayanti. He says that the term Baduta, Badu in Kannada is meat, Uta is food. Baduta has a cultural significance for several communities in the country, particularly to the people from the margins. This is definitely, articulating from a periphery, a marginocentric point of view. I quote, for several communities in the country, such as Dalits, Shudras, Muslims, and Christians, including the Brahmins in certain parts of India, in Karnataka, Gauda Saraswat Brahmins do eat fish And in Bengal and Orissa, you know that. Non-vegetarian is an integral part of their food culture, asserts Bhikshu. He further reiterates that any disrespect to Baduta amounts to disrespect to our ancestors, because non-Brahmin Hindu castes have actually offer meat to ancestors on the day of Shraddha, or the ancestor worship day, what we call it. As in many non-Brahmin communities, feeding meat is customary during ancestor worship. But Bashir further points out that Gandhi did not eat meat just for ahimsa. It was also part of his food practice, which he had inherited from his family that subsequently got linked to his doctrine of non-violence. Furthermore, he said, is there a bigger violence than making people starve? On the day of Gandhi Jayanti, if nearly 17 crore children are suffering from malnutrition, that is violence. In this country of Gandhi, if a child dies out of starvation, that's a barbaric violence. In the land of malnutrition and hunger, rejecting the food practice of majority is an extreme violence. So debate. Quoting the lines from a poem of a Kannada Dalit poet who eat beef, N.K. Hanumanthaya, ಗೋವು ತಿಂದು ಗೋವಿನಂತಾದವನು, having eaten the cow, I myself became a cow. Bashir concludes as follows. In this country of Sanatana religion, Brahmins survived without eating any meat and Dalits survived by consuming beef. But there is not a single incident in which a Dalit has ever committed an atrocity on the Brahmins. This has been converted into a different discourse, but I would like to put it in front of it. On the other hand, history is full of Brahmins committing atrocities on Dalits. Having eaten beef, Dalits lived piously like cows, while despite eating leaves and the like, Brahmins pounced on Dalit like tigers. I think I will stop this. Bashir concludes by saying, tell me now, is it trustworthy that someone eating non-vegetarian food on the day of Gandhi Jayanti is actually defaming Gandhi? So the purpose here is to, there are attempts from various other corners of humanities and social sciences and writing, vernacular writing, where the so far excluded non-vegetarian cuisine practices have been problematized and brought into the discussion. And this second one is the cuisine as a knowledge system of women. Anthropologists have pointed out that agriculture as a knowledge system belongs to women. In almost all activities associated with agriculture, right from sowing, weeding, thrashing, collecting the seed and preserving it for the next crop, and transforming them into nourishing cuisine, women play a crucial role. In all these activities, women have a ritualistic role to play and sing the appropriate songs connected to the rituals. At the same time, it's significant to note that men do not have any key roles to play in such rituals. Such links between women and the agricultural cuisine processor are much more intimate and clearly visible in shift cultivation communities, but also could also be traced in river valley and tank irrigation and gradient systems. Similar to agriculture, cuisine too is a women knowledge system. It is likely that the associations with Nala and Bhima as proponents of the two schools is only mythological, and cases of dominating and appropriating the knowledge of women. Like many other cases of medieval text being assigned to kings and mythical characters, here too we can notice that cuisine as a knowledge system has been ascribed to mythical characters. We need to understand that cuisine is a body-centric knowledge system. Neither any amount of written description nor oral inscription will make a culinary delicacy. It is actually the practice, in particular learned meticulously by observation while cooking it in performance, either by mother or grandmother, that is going to transform a learner cook to a perfect one. It's important to note here that the editor of Supashastra has given a song in the appendix with the title Bhojanada Hadu, which means feast song, that is sung by Havyaka women. Havyakas are Brahmins from the northern coastal Karnataka part, particularly Karwar and its surroundings. That is sung by Havyaka women during the ritual feasts. In fact, food is sung along with the food. The songs are sung. The song gives the names of various culinary delicacies and the name of the woman who prepared it. This is very important for us. This song, available as an appendix to Supashastra, prompts us to consider cuisine as a knowledge system that forms the repertoire of women's phonocentric and body-centric knowledge system. The cuisine system has been ascribed to Nala and Bhima on the one hand, and to Sanskrit and scriptocentric knowledge traditions on the other. This comment I am making particularly because the indigenous knowledge systems are being searched today only in Sanskrit manuscripts and Sanskrit databases. In fact, they lay. My suggestion is that they lay outside the scriptocentric knowledge system. Which is folklore. Such reconstructions of history of knowledge systems not only dominate the knowledge system of women and the people from the margins, but also deprive the intellectual property rights to its rightful owners. It is against such misappropriation of knowledge and the methodology of its historiography that we have to be aware of this totalizing, the plurality being transformed into a homogeneity. There is an urgent need to recognize the role of social epistemologies in understanding Indian knowledge system. The point, however, is that diversity of traditional knowledge practices represents a pool of human experience spanning over long periods and involving many complex cultural interrelationships. Pluralistic epistemologies and their efficacy is a time-tested phenomenon in India and are highly relevant even today, both as knowledge systems and processes of learning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Satyanath, for such a thought-provoking address, and Professor Aruna for chairing the session so effectively. It was truly an enriching experience to explore the depth of our culinary traditions through the lens of indigenous knowledge. I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to our reporter Sanskriti and our technical assistant Ruchi, whose support ensured the smooth documentation and functioning of the session. Lastly, I would like to thank you all for your active engagement and presence. We hope you found this session as inspiring and insightful as we did. You all can go ahead and join the ongoing parallel sessions. Thank you so much again. Thank you.
I would like to thank Satyanath sir for being with us for the last 3 years and bringing us together. He has taken from Ayurveda to the scriptural traditions to the women, and being a Malayali, I will say Bashir's article will be well done in Kerala. It will become popular because he has taken up such kind of concerns there. So this is what I really want to say. I would like to thank Professor Aruna Bhikshu ma'am, be patient and agreeing us, caring us. Thank you so much. If there is Debolina, can we take any more comments and close?
Yes, sir. We can sort of take maybe 1 or 2 comments or questions, if anybody wishes.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up this first section. If any of the participants have any question, please put forward or raise your hand.
Dr. Satyanath sir, I just wanted to share this with you. There is a very interesting column that's coming up in Andhra Jyoti Sunday edition. I think this is coming up for the past 6 months and is introducing the various Telugu texts of the medieval period, culinary texts of Telugu language from the medieval period. and also giving the recipes, both vegetarian and non-vegetarian. I can share some of those columns with you because I found it to be a very rare writing that's happening within the Telugu traditions.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll be interested in that.
Thank you, sir.
Are they
I have a very-
independent texts, or is it just a description of food in text?
Hey, some of them are independent texts, sir. I've been
Okay.
following the column. I can some of them are independent texts, only giving the recipes and the medicinal values of it. And some of the recipes that have been mentioned are even experienced by me when cooked by my mother. So they're in continuation as practices.
Okay, I have just one comment for what Professor Satyanath spoke now. May I?
Yes, ma'am,
May I?
please.
Okay, Professor Satyanath, while doing some other, while traveling, I was listening to your lecture very carefully. It was pretty interesting. I'm going to read this text, Super Shastra, because I'm doing some research on the folk cuisine in Jagannath cult, in Odisha. So I think I can create some comparison there. That is my gain from your paper. I have taken down so many notes like I do every time I listen to you. And then there is one suggestion. There are so many departments across the states who have academic courses on food culture, but they don't have any block or chapter or any part in the food cultural studies courses vis-a-vis folk foods and super shastra kind of texts. They have never been a part of food cultural studies in university departments. So maybe we can try to do that and advise the departments to include folk food and the texts thereof.
And then just to give a response, believe me, uh, the some of the material that I read today was written as an abstract for there are conferences on food is brimming. I mean, at least in the last 2-3 months, I have seen half a dozen of them. This abstract, one of the abstract on the abstract on historiography of cuisine was sent as a paper for such conference, which was promptly rejected. I must say they didn't find it interesting and it was rejected. So I have just
Oh my
brought a
God.
small portion of this
No,
here for the benefit
we
of
will
the.
take it. So, Professor Satyanath, I will take it in my university. In the MA folk literature that I am designing, one course will be on folk food, and then I will take your help in a big way, like I have been doing.
Sure, I will do whatever little I can do.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. I think Sanskriti had a question. Sanskriti, you have been raising your hand. This will be the last question if she has. Sanskriti?
Yes, ma'am. Actually,
Yeah,
I
you
wanted
can
to
go ahead.
ask sirs, I'm the repertoire for this session, and I wanted to ask sir about we are doing Kalyan Rao's Untouchable Spring, and I wanted to ask sir about his opinion on mapping new identities and how Kalyan Rao explores that in his text, in his novel. And I would like sir to tell us a little about that.
I need a little more detail. What is it that you are doing in this text?
Kalyan Rao's Untouchable Spring.
Say it again. I mean, there is some echo. It's not very clearly audible. Okay, fine. All right. Now, I need more information to give a response to this. If you send me your proposal or research proposal or a small abstract of that, I'll be able to react to it in a much more constructive manner rather than saying something without going through what exactly you are doing. So, my mobile and telephone numbers are available with Rusha. You can take it from her and write to me.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. It was a very nice session.
Thank you.
Profusely thanking you, sir. Profusely thanking Aruna ma'am, Nandini ma'am as well. Jolly sir, of course, for being part of this inaugural session. It was really very enriching to enter into this dialogue, which was initiated by Nandini ma'am and taken forward by Satyanath sir and chaired by Dr. Shanjukta Noshkar and Dr. Aruna Bhikshu ma'am. Thank you so much for these inaugural session. I also thank Soumya, Sanskriti, the volunteers who have very well organized the keynote session as well. So now we shall, sir, with your permission, and Jolisa, if you were there, with your permission, then we can move on to the first parallel sessions, presentations, as the presenters are also ready with their papers.